Greetings, travelers. My name is Nick Murphy.
And my name is Satchell Drakes.
And welcome to Cinephilia Anonymous Telecast. We're going to take you on an interstellar adventure through the darkest corners of your mind to unlock your hidden passion for cinema.
So much passion.
Mm-hmm. This week, Satchell, we are discussing The Puffy Chair. It is a 2005 movie written and directed by Mark and J. Duplass, the Duplass Brothers. I read on Wikipedia that it was screened at the 2005 Sundance Film Festival and won the Audience Award at the South by Southwest Film Festival of that same year.
That's pretty crazy.
So you turned me on to this movie, Satchel. Have you seen it before, or are you just kind of something you heard about?
Yeah, I saw it. So I saw it, I think, in 2005 as a wee lad. And
oh, wee lad.
It happened in front of me.
That's 10 years ago. Oh, my God.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does not feel like 10 years ago.
I know, dude.
Oh, my God.
And then I saw it again as an adult, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I totally dug it. And it was like, man, I want to do stuff like that.
Yeah. I tell you what, watching
I mean?
this movie, it definitely sparked my reignited my passion for
your flame.
Hey, we could do that. These guys did it. We could do something like that, and we could tell a story like that, and we have the technology to do that, you know?
Yeah. I remember it was I think we talked about it when we were playing Hearthstone a while back, I think. When I came back and I watched that with full consciousness. It was when I had just moved back to the New York City area from Philly, and I don't know, I guess I was 23 or 24, and it was just one of those weird young adult Wild West seasons of life, you know. And I was trying to figure out oh man, what am I gonna do? There are all these things, I don't want to make the wrong decision, and I was just in this weird slump, and I part of my remedy was watching a whole bunch of Netflix because I was unemployed, kind of looking for work, kind of being too self-deprecating. And I realized two things happened. I realized that I was totally out of it when Netflix, you know how Netflix has the movie suggestions, the genre suggestions or whatever.
Yeah.
At that time, their algorithms are so accurate. They're so specific.
Yeah.
They're my favorite algorithms that I remember logging in one day and it literally recommended, it seems like you're into independent coming of age dark comedies. Would you like to watch these 10? And I was
specific,
oh no, I need me some Jesus. It was so bad. But at that time I was recommended The Puffy Chair, and I watched it and I was like, whoa, that was amazing. I didn't even know you were allowed to write stories like this. It seems so possible. I want to totally take video more seriously, you know?
Yeah, it definitely felt it felt inspired. It felt very analytical of 20-somethings, you know? It felt very
sure.
It felt very introverted and very looking back at the self and stuff. I feel I don't know the backstory to the film or anything like that, but it feels like there might be some autobiographical things in here, because Mark Duplass is writer-director, also the main actor in the film. The woman who plays his girlfriend, it was his girlfriend in real life, and now his wife.
Right. That's so crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. It's so internal, and his brother directed it. There's a character. I don't think the guy who played his brother was not his brother, right?
No.
Okay, yeah. So it's about a brother, a girlfriend, and all of these people are involved in the production of this. So I was there's got to be some kind of story behind this. I'm fascinated with the sub movie
Right.
You know what
well,
I mean?
there is if you watched all of recently the South by Southwest talk that Mark Duplass had.
Yeah.
He talked about how essentially the way that the Puffy Chair was made was based around everything that they had available to them.
Yeah.
So like they said, like, at that point in time, he was in a band, so they had a van for touring, and they were like, okay, a road movie sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
His wife's dad was, like, a lawyer, a doctor or something, so, like, everyone in the town that he was, like, a doctor to, like, was able to, like, open up different shops and stuff and make it available to them. There was a warehouse going out of business, and they were able to buy 2 chairs for cheap.
God.
And, like, they just took all these resources and were essentially like, okay, if we can like write something around all of these things, we'll have a pretty compelling film with like different locations and everything sort of at our fingertips. And I thought that was so cool how they sort of like reverse jimmied a film
from these things. That's incredible. That's so inspiring. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's very much like so Robert Rodriguez directed Sin City recently, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Desperado, and El Mariachi. So the story of him making El Mariachi, like I read his autobiography on it, and it's called Rebel Without a Crew, and it's the same kind of thing. He's like, I knew I had access to X, Y, and Z, and I knew the kind of movie that I wanted to make, so I wrote all of this stuff around the things that I had available and the things that I could do for the limited budget that I wanted to make this movie for. And I love stuff like that, man. And it's I can't say enough. It's like super inspiring. It's just like, oh, what do I have around here that I could do this with, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, well, you've been making films for a while now. Like, how have you ever kind of done that, or like has that ever come to mind for you?
You know, I was talking to our friend Dom. We were talking about writing and stuff, and I feel like this is my approach to most kind of creative things. I kind of come up with like 3 or 4 things that kind of become the all right, super backstory to this. So I watched this movie in film school called The Five Obstructions, and it's about these 2 filmmakers, Werner Herzog and Lars von Trier, I think. So the 2 of them, Lars von Trier used to be Werner Herzog's student. Lars von Trier used to be, Werner Herzog was the teacher. Lars von Trier was his student, and he gives his former teacher these 5 obstructions. So he has to like make these films, but like there's 5 kind of like creative roadblocks that he has to like work his way around. And I always, whenever I approach something creatively, I tend to kind of use that mentality where it's like, okay, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Now, how can I like weave a thing around X, Y, and Z? So like, it's like my senior film in high school, or not in high school, in college. It was the same kind of thing. It's like, I knew I wanted to do a story about time travel. I know that I wanted the main character not to speak, and I wanted it to be, there's another obstruction that I can't remember. It was, the main character wouldn't talk. Only everyone else in the film would talk, and that it would be like reflective of like regret. Regret was going to be a big part of like every scene and stuff, or the main scenes and the thing. So I kind of like weave the story around those things. And I was trying to think of like I have this other new film idea that I've been trying to like slowly work out. Yeah. I'll tell you more about it. But it's the same kind of thing. It's like, I want to have X happen. I want to have Y happen, and I want Z to happen. Now, where's the story around those things?
I got you.
You know what I mean? So for me, creativity is always kind of like this river. You can put up these kind of barriers, and it's just going to like find a way around these things. And I feel like that's where you get the most creative ideas from.
That's really comforting to hear, because I think, so for me, like my formal background is in things that don't really have a timeline, right? So like design, and then like photography, and then like, I guess the only thing on a timeline is like animation stuff. But like it always, for like whenever I start any project in any one of those things, it's always based around, and it's something that I realize I'm doing now as like, I'm totally like new to like the film world, but like one thing I realize I'm doing with film right now that I've been doing with everything else is like it always starts with like a moment. Like I'm like, oh, like in this I don't know, website or like or app or whatever, this image that I'm working on, I know that I want this thing to be there. And that's like I don't know, I want this moment to be in it, or I want this use of light to be in it. Right. Yeah. And then from that, I'll build everything around it so that can sort of be like the spectacle of it. Yeah. And that's like the motivation for it, right? But it's never...
You build the top of the pyramid first and build the foundation around it.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And like I always wondered, man, is this wrong that I'm going about that? I guess there's really no wrong way. I need to stop asking stupid questions like that.
I feel the same way. You're like, am I getting hung up on this one detail and being stubborn about it, you know?
Yeah, I also don't want to die on that hill. Like,
yeah, right.
I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I want to learn
I told you I was going to shoot this entire movie upside down, and by God, we are going to shoot this entire movie upside down.
Yeah. But going back to the Puffy Chair, so there are a lot of different things that I really noticed about. Dude, I'm wondering if we should just not have a break.
You want to go straight through? That's fine.
Just go straight through.
I'm down for that, man.
I have so many like thoughts on this thing, and I feel like you will too. Like when I rewatched it, I very much had that like, wow, like I just absorbed a lot of stuff. Like I'm gonna let it flow, but merely through like forcing myself to unpack a lot of thoughts that I had, because this film was like so like important for me. Like I realized that there were actually some themes that I really do kind of want to work through, and I'm curious to know where you stand on a lot of them.
Sure.
So one of the first things that I took note of, that I guess a lot of people probably did, was that there's like this trying to place the narrative's timeline into anything orthodox or commonly understood is a complete waste of time. Like yet the timeline works and it's entirely relatable. So we have this film that's like the Puffy Chair. I think we could agree it's like emotionally on tilt from the first 5 minutes of Act 1 to the final 5 minutes of the whole thing.
Yeah, and tilt is a great way to do it, because I feel like everybody, I mean, especially the main character, like they just kind of like, they go back and forth. Like at one point they're like joking, having a good time, and then it just like the everything gets flipped, and it's like, whoa, why are we yelling at each other now? What?
Right.
like one line of dialogue just like totally spins the entire scene. Yeah. And even on like a minor scale, like I felt like, you know, when he is talking to his girlfriend, I'm gonna bring up the IMDb so I can properly Emily, right? So he's speaking with Emily. Oh, that's right, Josh. Yeah. So they're talking, and when they speak to each other, like privately, they have this weird like voice that the two of them do.
Oh, she's a really cute voice.
Yeah, right. So like they do that, and I'm like, oh, okay, and then it just like flips, like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
like they're at dinner, and they're sitting there, and he's like, oh, you know, I'm gonna take this call real quick, and he takes the call, and like the way, like, okay, we've been introduced to your character, I guess that's how he speaks, and then it's just like, oh, hey bro, what's up? And I was like, whoa, where did this other guy come from? And like and Emily feels the same way. I feel like she's just like, what the hell is this? And then she kind of freaks out. So like, and I feel like that set up the entire movie for like everybody's gonna have like one dynamic, and then just like boom on the other side at the drop of a hat, basically.
Yeah.
So
I think
nuts.
there's a lot of, it's just, there's so much passive aggression, and like there's a lot of reading.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that, because you start to realize, like, peppered throughout the film, there's like this aggression that sort of comes up, even in the voice. Like there's sort of like an aggression, like, man, what's wrong with you? I don't like you. Like, you know?
Yeah. It's like cutesy, but has this like venom to it.
Wait,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. and what's crazy about it is that even at the climax, like the emotional height, like when the fight unloads in the hotel room, right?
Yeah.
Like, and all the baggage that the screenwriters have been accruing for over an hour is like let out. It's not even a steep slope into the ending. Like it's just like it's like the mid drop in a plateau on Nitro at Six Flags or whatever flagship roller coaster your respective park has, where it trips you out, it gets you invested, and then it drops you again because they still haven't collected the chair. You know what I mean?
Exactly. They've been leading you to this chair, and then the chair plot like drops out like 45 minutes in with like another 45 minutes left to go.
Yeah. Just like 12 Angry Men, this is one of those films that has such powerful performances and writing that you kind of lose sight of a lot of the technical aspects for the better. And I'm going to unpack that, but there's a small preface for it. So in this film, alongside the other film that we talked about last week, that was released around the same time, called Four-Eyed Monsters, both are considered as our generation's contribution to film innovation. It's supposed to be our lives and our voice in a kind of way. And I can't deny the appeal of authenticity and all the circumstances and performances. Like the performances they're very honest, right? With like these like nuanced flaws and the passive aggression that I'm sort of used to in my everyday life, not through giving to other people, but through meeting people. And like at many points, like my chest was like super tight, like just like dealing with, I like The Office style, right?
Yeah.
And
nobody felt like they were acting. Like I didn't feel like I was watching actors. I felt like I was watching people. And I guess that's probably the best compliment that you could pay an actor. But it was a different style and tone that I think that I was used to seeing. And I think the camera work helped with that. Like the camera work,
right.
My initial thought, and like I felt bad for thinking this, I was like, wow, this seems very like amateurish, right? And I was like, oh, that's not a right thing to say. Like that's not like, this is a movie that is out. Like people made this. Like I shouldn't. That's an incorrect criticism for that, right? And then I was like, no,
right.
I was like, this has to be purposeful. Why is it like this? And then it reminded me of like some other film movements, like a Dogma 95 kind of thing, and very like, and then you mentioned Mumblecore before, and once I looked that up, I was like, oh, okay, cool. It's like low production value, amateur actors, and I was like, oh, that's the thing, that's the style that they're going for. And then I grew to like appreciate that by the end.
Yeah, definitely. Like part of what made these performances so authentic was that the whole thing was shot documentary style on like I think it was like one of the back in the day, the DVX 100, yeah. Dude,
can I tell you that was like the Ferrari. Like for those of you that are listening to this who are maybe like not super familiar with film. So like when they announced the DVX 100 is a camera made by Panasonic, right? So
yeah,
leading up to all this stuff, your average consumer camera shot at 30 frames per second interlaced. So what that looks like is like, I'm just giving some background for,
Jank.
Yeah. It looks like a TV news camera, right? So to shoot something cinematic on it, you want it to be shot at 24 frames per second, but like nobody did that. And then they started recording on mini DV, and then we could get like 30p, which is like 30 progressive frames instead of like 30 interlaced frames. So that was like because it kind of looked like that film look. And then Panasonic came out with the DVX 100. It was like it was the Ferrari of cameras back in the day.
Nothing like it was 576p.
Yeah, exactly. Like still SD.
Yo,
right?
That was pretty cool because SD
cool.
was 480p, so you had overhead, man.
Yeah,
you could reframe vertically if you wanted to.
Yeah, totally. And you could like work on it and stuff. You could crop it, but it shot at 24. And the way it did 24 is a whole other discussion. But it shot at 24 frames a second, which is like insane for the day. So like it was the camera. Like I remember being in school and being like, yo, did you hear? Keith got his hands on a DVX. Be like, what? We have to go film something now. And it was the camera. So much so that like when I was looking at an HD camera, when those started becoming affordable, I bought the HVX 100 or HVX 200.
Oh, okay. Wait, is that what I saw at your house when we went down to Philly to do the thing?
Yeah, that's what we use.
Okay,
we use it for our show Continue. Yeah, the HVX.
Oh, use it for Continue. Nice.
For HVX 200. I mean, I bought that when I was in, I guess, my junior year in college, and it's been with us ever since, and it is a workhorse. But like,
wait, how if you don't mind me asking, how much was it back then?
It was like $5,000 back in the day.
Okay, that sounds about right.
So yeah, and I think like the DVX was something. I want to say the DVX was like $3,000 when it came out.
Okay.
But yeah, with the HVX, like, it was the first camera to record on, like, not the first camera, but one of the first cameras to record on, like, solid state drives, and, like, there's no tape, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no tape.
It's so crazy. But, like, when I saw, like, on the Wikipedia thing, it was, like, shot on DVX, I was like, oh, I was like, these guys, they did it right. You know, they got, like, a film type camera to, like, shoot this thing they wanted
Which
to do.
apparently they got and planned out shooting within the 30-day return period so they could return it back after.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
No.
That's
I
awesome.
saw on a tight budget, yeah.
Dude.
And they like calculate a restocking fee, and then like they just pay the restocking fee.
Jeez, man, dude, I love this movie more and more.
I know, right?
The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, oh man, like, it feels like a passion project, you know, and like,
right, definitely.
in my life right now, like, that's what I need. So like, watching this movie was just like, it was just such a feeling of, yes, we can do it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do something like that, you know.
Definitely. I definitely felt that way through the content and the performances, and it was through things like that, like there definitely were, like, I still like, so this was shot on state-of-the-art equipment. I'm not trying to take away from it at all, but regardless of that, like, the film was definitely not for like pixel peepers, right? Like, there's some dank zooms in this thing. Like, there's one in particular after they get their puffy chair on Rhett's face. It's like you can tell that they like it was a slow zoom and then accidentally got heavy-handed, and then it went quickly and then it's slow again. And I like laughed at it because that was like the only moment I really noticed it. But otherwise, you really don't notice it. Like, you're really not paying attention to that. And I think the only reason I paid attention to it is because I like think about cameras and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, and there's a couple parts where I'm like, I usually like racking focus and changing a focal length and stuff, but this was like a lot of that, and I was like, I don't know if that's purposeful, but I'm going to assume it is. But I'm interested. You know what I mean? But there was like other camera moves where it would, you know, purposeful and like direct your eye and stuff. Like, especially when they're at that motel and, you know, the camera's kind of like all over the place, and like, and watching the woman when she's like, when she has her back turned and stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, there's some planning. This seems like really interesting.
Yeah. And the sound design was great. Like, when it was kind of on her, like, and he was running in the background. Yeah. You heard the sounds from the TV above everything else. Yeah. Like, there was always like a really good sense of place. Like, aurally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was nice, like, I mean, alongside the technical stuff, like, it was nice seeing these dramatic moments in film reflect how mundane arguments really are in the real world. Yeah. Like, it was very reeled back from any like Oscar-winning performance you might find. Like, for example, like, one thing I noticed, especially this year, like, it's the Oscars, right? Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
It's the Oscars. Yeah. I was watching the Oscars. And like the Oscar nominations for Best Actor, Best Actress. One thing I noticed, like, from all the snippets. So essentially what they do is for each nominee, they're picking a snippet from the movies that they felt was the strongest performance. And almost always what they choose ends up being like these grandiose arguments. And the person is like, you see veins popping out of their forehead. And they're yelling at someone or something for something. And this is sort of like the pinnacle of like a really compelling performance from an actor or actress, right? And it is, you know what I mean? I wouldn't want to take away from that, but I remember watching it and being very being very conscious of the hyperbole, I guess, and in some ways being taken out of it. Is this the measure of it? Not saying that it's like the ultimate thing, but I kind of wondered, like, has there ever been like an Oscar given for a performance that's so realistic that it's not impressive? You know what I mean? Like, I'll unpack that for a second. Like, for example, I think it comes through in the most potent way for me with like Aaron Sorkin. So like, I really like Aaron Sorkin, and I like the way that he writes, and I love the arguments that he writes. Those are the kind of arguments that, like, you know, you have a grudge against somebody and like they did something wrong to you, and you in your head you imagine yourself calling them out, and like you're doing that thing at you say the perfect time. Thing, and like there's, for whatever reason, there's a crowd of all the people you love behind you listening to you, like you're just like in the spectacle of your moment, you know what I mean? And like the thing is, when it plays plays out in front of you, you start to realize how like fantastical and odd it is. Like, and it was the most real for me when I started watching The Newsroom. So like I was on this Aaron Sorkin high, especially after The Social Network, because I felt like Zuckerberg was portrayed so well. And I started watching The Newsroom, and it was one of those things where like everyone is arguing because it's such a high pressure environment, and all the arguments are 10 out of 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like then you have like this veteran who's standing up and he's fighting for himself, and he's like nitpicking all the nuances in the person in their opponent's like personality. And then the intern who just got hired, she stands up and she's a freshman in college, and she's like all like she's all psychological and sociological too, and you're just like, wait a minute, you all sound like Aaron Sorkin. This is impossible.
Right, exactly.
I am not. Like, there's a point where, so like, there's a point where like there's a falling off point, right? And it was nice that in this film there was compelling moments that weren't high octane, over the top. Like, you had one, but even there, like, Josh is all like, dude, you can't do that, dude, man. You know, like,
yeah, dude, he did that a lot.
It's so real and accessible, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's the heart of Mumblecore, I guess. Would you like to explain to the listeners what Mumblecore is?
Yeah, so Mumblecore is a subgenre of American independent film. I mean, I've seen, I think it's mostly American. Like, I haven't really seen too many like foreign Mumblecore films, and so they're usually like straight up from Wikipedia, like low budget production values, amateur actors, heavily focused on naturalistic dialogue. I was talking to my brother about it, and he was like, you know, it's like the film version of shoegazer music. And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
So good.
Yeah, it's very like too shy to be arrogant, but American. You don't know that. You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah.
Like, you have to have this arrogance to like put yourself out there. But like for them, it's just like, no, I have feelings and I'm internal and stuff. And this is very much like that. It's not about like, there's minimal action in this movie. Aside from it being like a road movie, there's very, for the amount of miles that the film covers, like emotionally, it does the same thing, which is the reason why it's a road trip movie. Like, I feel like our characters grow. I feel like they grow, but I feel like they also don't grow at the same time. I feel like Josh, he's kind of like set in his ways in the beginning. Like, they have this, he had these actions that I was just trying to like understand. And I guess like as the movie unfolds, you kind of understand his actions a little bit more. Like
what?
I feel like he would like lie. I don't know if he would lie in these situations, like the motel being like a prime thing for it. And even when like they, it's just like his brother's like, why are you lying? Like, what are you gaining from this other than like $10? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I feel like he was kind of like lying to Emily in the same way about their relationship. It was just kind of I don't know, like the lack of commitment on his end.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was
and they draw a parallel to it where he's like he's staring her in the face. Yeah. And like as Mark's doing it, his brother's like, he's staring her in the face, and then she's just like, that's Josh.
Yeah.
Like,
their relationship amazed me. It was fascinating to watch.
You want to explain? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, I'm trying to like put my finger on like what just from the get-go, like from, it felt so intimate, like being part of their like little inside joke. Like I would imagine this voice started as like an inside joke and kind of like grew from there and then became a basis of their dialogue and stuff. So like that felt very intimate. And then when she storms off, I was like, okay, that went to 60 very quickly. You know, what was that about? And then he like redeems her the next day, which I thought was like a cute moment. And then they go on this road trip, and then it escalates like that again. Like they come home drunk from his brother's wedding, and at one point they're having a good time, they're laughing, and then it just boom, why don't you want to get married? And
right.
I was trying to find, like, I don't know if I just missed it, but he has a conversation with his father when they finally get to his father about when he married his mom, and his mom, or his father tells a story about they came back from a wedding, and he just like accidentally proposed to his mother and stuff. And I was trying to draw the parallel between like, what does Josh get from that story, and how does he apply that to his life? Like, I was trying to figure out what the purpose was for revealing that, because the film ended, and I was just like, oh, okay, it just ended right there. And I was trying to like decompress from it and figure out, I guess like that last act. And I don't know if I just like missed kind of the purpose of it, or what happened with it. Like they go to the parents' house, right?
Yeah.
And then they're just hanging out, and they have this dialogue, and him and his father have this dialogue, and then what happens? I'm trying to remember like the last scene.
And then after that, he's out in the field with Emily, and she's just like, I think we should break up.
That's right. That's what. Yeah, it just felt. And
then they just break up.
And then they just break up. And that's what I was trying to figure out. Like, what is that scene and the scene with his father? Like, what are the two? So there's this filmmaking phenomena that happens about editing, and that like putting two shots together will create a third unintended shot. So if you have a shot with some emotional content, another shot or scene with another emotional content, it will produce a third unintended like inference from the audience. So
right.
And I was super feeling that effect, and I was trying to figure out
what it was
and what it means.
Right. Yeah. Like, why did they even bother showing a conversation that he had with his dad? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I feel like it's important, and it should resonate to him about marriage and about his relationship with Emily.
The thing that
maybe that's what it is. Maybe instead of just being like, instead of like in my head, the movie response to it is like, you're right, I should marry her because you and mom did it, and I can do it too. And maybe that's the filmmaker's point, is that it doesn't always happen like that, and there are unconventional things, and it's just gonna end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The thing that I got out of his conversation with his dad was that, so what I did was I juxtaposed his conversation with his dad with everything that Emily was saying and feeling about marriage. Because before that, the only person who's really talking about marriage is Emily.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear Emily talk about and defend how sacred marriage is,
right?
And
because
how appalling
the brother
it is.
meets that girl,
right, and then just marries her.
And it's just like, oh well, it just didn't work out. And
I loved her, man. I loved her.
I love that girl, man. Dude, he's such a character.
I know.
Oh my god! And you know, we all know somebody like that too.
I know. That's the thing, dude. Like,
they just operate in this weird way. We're just like, I don't understand it, but that's just him, I guess.
Yeah. And that's why Josh, when you see Josh, like, he's just like, yeah, man, well, that's just how it goes. You know that he knows how it goes with his brother, and he's just like, yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he doesn't even try arguing anymore.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I feel like the three of them are this nice triptych of relationship commitments. You know, the three of them are on this spectrum of like, Emily is very, you make a commitment, you stick with it. And Rhett is, I think he's on a similar kind of way, but also like the inverse of that. So, you know, he feels super strongly, and I think everybody in this film feels very strongly about people they want to have relationships with, but like, Emily is so gung-ho about like, you make a commitment, you stay with it, and Rhett is just like, whatever, man. And Josh is just kind of in the middle. Josh is in the middle of these two, and I was waiting for him to kind of side one way or the other.
Yeah.
But he kind of keeps his indifference throughout the entire film.
Yeah. He definitely does. He's a really hard read, and he's kind of like, I don't believe that he's hiding anything. Like, I believe that that's just genuinely how he is. Like, he sort of plays like this alpha male oblivious kind of role.
The Cinephilia Anonymous Telecast is produced by Satchell Drakes and Nick Murphy. Music by Mark Junker. You can hear more of his music at junker.ca. That's junker.ca. You can follow the Telecast on Twitter at CA Telecast, subscribe on YouTube at CA Telecast, subscribe on iTunes, and check out our website, catelecast.com.